Grid-scale solar film generator Lodestone Energy has signed and sealed $300 million in equity financing it requires to start construction on its unique solar energy project. Lodestone's Managing Director Gary Holden joins me now to talk about the new investors and the project's progress over the past year. Hi, Gary.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. So, what have you been up to over the past year since you checked in with NBR?
Well, a year ago we announced our $300 million capital program to build 5 solar farms, and we raised at that time just over $40 million to essentially buy the land and complete the engineering process. So the last year has been doing exactly that. We purchased all of our land positions and have designed the sites to a kind of a shovel-ready stage, and now we're ready to start construction as soon as the wet season is over, and so we raised the balance of the capital. About half of it is debt and half of it is equity, and we've lined up partners to purchase the power, and are good to go.
Okay. Well, tell me a bit about that investment that you've attracted. I know you've announced that Westpac was you're a partner on the debt side previously. Who's new coming into the equity side?
Well, we're pretty excited about the way this has gone, because when we did the first equity raise, we brought in some of some of New Zealand's most interesting and active private investors. And this last go round, a number of those have topped up quite a lot. People like Sam Morgan and the like have topped up, and then we added Jarden PI as a partner. And Jarden PI is, they've aggregated somewhere between 100 and 150 investors into a pool. And then we've also added Purpose Capital, who are a really exciting investor who have historically focused on this kind of investment. And then some interesting individuals. Rod Drury has come on board, and some others. And so it's a nice collection of high net worth New Zealanders that invest in this sort of thing, and some people that have aggregated some pools to come in as well.
Mm. I note that you're quite proud that it's 100% sort of New Zealand-owned business, but I imagine that you might have some interest from overseas as well, whether you're sort of been willing to take it. Have you seen that interest?
Yeah, we have had interest. We at the end of the day, we decided that having it an entire New Zealand group was important to us, and it doesn't mean that overseas investors don't have a place in the market. They certainly will come in, and we think a number of people interested in developing solar have partnered up with overseas investors. But given the kind of the approach we're taking and the style of the business plan, where we're talking about vertically integrating and selling the power directly through retail channels, it seemed like the perfect combination of approaches to also have New Zealand investors.
Sure, a good selling point as well. So those retail partners, can you tell me anything about them, their identity perhaps?
Well, we're still we're planning to keep that confidential a little bit longer, because we part of talking about who they are will include the approach we're going to be taking in the marketplace, and so it's we're not quite ready to talk about all of that yet, but it won't be long. In the next couple months, we'll be talking about that.
Sure. I wanted to ask you a bit about the economics of solar. You mentioned even in the interview that we did with you last year that you had been waiting for some time for the economics for solar to be correct in New Zealand to sort of launch this project. I was just wondering myself, what is that price point or that cost point? Is there sort of a price point that you've nominated before you sort of kicked off on this?
Well, with these things, it's always kind of a range. If you're hitting the range, because there are moving parts that carry on and risks that happen over time. But generally we were watching over the last decade or so the value of electricity during the daytime period. Clearly, that's the powerful indicator of solar economics for obvious reasons. And New Zealand has a very transparent market, and you can analyze power prices, in 256 different locations in the country every half hour for the last 20 years. So you can really data mine the price regime that we're in, and we kind of knew where daytime prices were coming from and likely where they're heading, and that kind of all clicked into place around 2018, 2019. The dynamics are changing. The world supply chain is changing. The cost of moving goods around is changing. There's an intense international demand for solar panels now, as other countries are building more solar, and so it's always a moving target. But at the same time, New Zealand's price of electricity is rising. The cost of carbon is going up. The price of natural gas is going up. Importing coal is more expensive than it used to be, and so as all these things are moving around, they're offsetting each other, and solar is if you can take that daytime price into the market, consumers can actually see a benefit of switching to that kind of program.
And in terms of you mentioned the supply chain there. In terms of the construction of the PV panels, the solar panels themselves, will that be done in New Zealand, or where are you buying those from?
Yeah, we most solar panels in today's market, if you want the top quality, tend to come from China, and so the Chinese suppliers, the top 3 or 4 are the places we were shopping, and they essentially give you a little bit of a assembly kit where you get the panel, you get the tracking mechanisms, you get all of the auxiliary gear from one supplier, and then what we'll do is import that kit and train up a bunch of installers here through contractual relationships with subcontractors and build it on site.
Okay. And has that supply chain been disturbed by the likes of Ukraine conflict and sort of Russia pulling out of global energy markets? I assume there must be a bit more demand for photovoltaic than there was before.
Yeah, there's an interesting combination of effects. The U.S. is a big demand for solar, and they're sort of continually working on their policy, and the previous administration put on some tariffs on solar, and so they're working through how those tariffs play out into the future. But we know we're competing with other countries for solar panels, and we know that the supply chain to certain parts of the world has been affected by conflict, as you said. But for us, it's just managing the issue. We probably will insert some extra time in the project schedules to allow for a slower shipping part of the build out. But our analysis during the last year is yes, the risks are there, but we certainly are confident that we can manage our way through them.
Okay, and during the year you also announced who will be helping you build this, Infratech, which is owned by Well Networks. That's right.
Yes. Yeah. Infratech is our EPC contractor, engineering, procurement, and construction contractor. We're engineering the detailed project with a company called Jacobs. You may have heard of them. They're a prominent New Zealand engineering firm, and so we're putting together Infratech and Jacobs and a top tier equipment supplier to put our plan into action, and we're really confident that the combination of those three things will create a success here.
Okay, and also you've got the 5 existing pieces of land and construction in your plan. In the press release here, it says you've got 3 more that you're looking to acquire as well, pieces of land. How are you going on that?
It's going well. It's obviously quite a secretive thing at this point. We aren't ready to announce those locations, but we do believe that there is a benefit for us to just continuously develop. We sort of see a future where there's more than 25 solar farms in operation at the end of the day, and it's a bit of a development race to the finish. And our strategy of taking the power directly into the retail market is so far it looks like a fairly unique one, and having kind of a continuous development while we ramp up to that looks like that will be a competitive advantage.
Great. Well, I hope you manage to deploy the money well and the construction goes well, and check in with us again when you get setting up.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Gary.
Yeah.